Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good middle of the night, wherever you are at listening to this LinkedIn Live conversation, or maybe you are seeing the video of it after it takes place. I am delighted today to welcome into the conversation Truett Black, the author of Training Zen, How to Build a Sustainable and Rewarding Career in Corporate Training and Facilitation. You'll hear me call him True. That's how I know him. But the formal name on the book jacket is Truett. Before we jump into the conversation that we're going to have, I just love to know where people are dialing in from. So please drop into the chat where you are at if you are joining us. I know I looked at the RSVPs. We had a really nice global reach for people for this conversation in particular. I have more of a network here in the United States. Truett has more of a network in Asia, and we both have people around the globe that are joining us. Excellent, excellent. We are definitely a global conversation, and looking forward to it. I also want to announce that if you stay till the end, we will select one person who will receive a copy of Truett's book and another person who will receive a copy of my book. In order to be eligible, you just need to drop into the chat right now, I'm in. If you write I'm in and you're still here in 28 minutes when the conversation ends, you have a chance to be chosen to receive the book. So with that said, enough of the logistics piece and the welcome piece. Truett, thanks for joining us from Taipei in the middle of the night tonight. It is good to have you in this conversation, True.
Oh, it's wonderful to have the chance to talk with you, JD, and I really appreciate the support that we're getting from friends and colleagues.
Yeah, it's been exciting. True and I go way back. We don't need to count how many decades, but I was a corporate trainer for Kaplan Educational Centers when True was running one of our centers in Salt Lake City, right?
It was actually Las Vegas, Nevada is where I started. Yeah.
Okay. And the company flew you to Portland to train with me. So you trained in Portland, Oregon for a job in Las Vegas. After your years at Kaplan, you went on to a really successful career as a corporate trainer and facilitator, and have an active practice both here in the US, based in Southern California, and in Southeast Asia, based in Taipei. And as you look at that global career and global reach of corporate training and development, what for you has been your North Star? What has kept you moving forward in this important but kind of unique field that you have dedicated your years to?
Well, I think you'll hear a lot of folks in our industry say that about the same thing. I have a deep love of people, of connecting, to be more specific. I love to understand people, where they're coming from. I love to understand what's on their minds. In a training type of scenario, what I'm really hoping to do is find out what questions are, what sort of puzzling questions might be on their minds, or what they're looking to resolve or find some clarity around in a training event. So I love most of all connecting with people. I have a deep natural curiosity also about the world and the way things work and what's going on at different organizations. And finally, the way I would answer that is to say that I have, I think from a young age, been drawn to the opportunity to serve, to have the opportunity to help people on their journeys.
That is, not only is that really beautiful to hear, but True, as I have come to know you over the years, that feels very aligned with who I know you to be. And so for our viewers who've not yet met or read any of Truett's work, you're in for a treat. as you get to know him and get to know his style. So let me jump right in and ask, as you put the book together, what do you see as the necessary elements for a training event, a training workshop to be successful? What needs to be a part of that recipe, True?
Thanks, JD. I think it begins with the reason why you're there. So whether you're internal, delivering an internal program, you may have been the designer, or you're involved in implementation and facilitation of a learning journey, or one module or several modules in a series, or whether you're coming in as a hired external consultant. And again, you may have designed the program, or you may be tasked with delivering the program as is. I think success begins by getting very clear about why you're there. And for the folks who are a little bit newer to the industry, when they ask me that question, what is, well, they don't often ask, but when it comes up in conversation, I will ask. Let's put it that way. I put my mentor hat on, and I will say, why are you doing this? What do you think is the purpose of the work that you do? I'm steering people towards what I think is the only right answer to that question. Allowing, of course, for individual ways of expressing that, but I think there's only one real purpose to being there. And should I say what that is?
Yes, we're ready for it. Ooh,
well,
he even takes the drink of water to keep the suspense going even longer here. What is it?
I'm waiting for Alex to jump in. Really the only reason to be there is to serve. So juxtapose that against other possible reasons. Contrast that with other possible reasons. Are we there to deliver the content as planned? Not really. We should have a content plan. There should be a subject. There should be an agenda. All of that is necessary, but it's not about the content. It's not about getting all of the activities right, the sequencing, the timing, and all of those things, which are necessary parts of a preparation process. It's actually about being there for those people in that room and doing everything you can, bringing all that you have to inspire them, to engage their curiosity, to answer the question that everyone in the room has when they come into a training, which is, am I going to get anything out of this? And to answer it clearly.
On a meta level, for my viewers who have watched this whole series, this is the third in a series of author conversations I've done this spring. And the other two, I was in my home office. You saw my regular background. I'm actually on site with one of my clients in New York City, where a half hour after this conversation ends, I have a 3-hour training that I'm delivering. And so this is warm up for me to be ready for what I'm about to deliver. And if there's any variance in my Wi-Fi or background noise, I'm not in my home office where I'm used to, but I'm out on the road trying to serve the people who will be in my training class this afternoon. True, I had a privilege of being able to read an early copy of this book when you and the publishers were going through it, and you invited me to write the foreword to it. And so I've had more time with this than many people have had. But I'm curious, as you wrote the book, what assumptions about the field of corporate training and facilitation, what assumptions were you trying to challenge with Training Zen?
I'd like to clarify why it's called Training Zen, and that I think is a good lead into the assumptions piece. Training is a visceral thing. It's a somewhat tangible concept. So we've got an event. It starts at this time. It ends at this time. We're covering this subject and this, these objectives. It's what I would call, it's a concrete sort of thing. with processes aligned around it, and logistics and all of those things. Zen refers to what actually makes that event successful. And I wrote the book Training Zen and named it that because my belief, really from early in my career, is that what makes all of that work at a high level, and a high level means that we're actually creating takeaway value for the folks in the room, something that really helps them. It's all about mindset and your belief system and your own mental models going into the session. So perhaps one of the assumptions I'm challenging is that training is about process and design. Well, yeah, process and design is critical. You have to be good at it to be successful. But if you don't have your mental model in place, if you don't have that set of beliefs and that you hold very deeply, they're dear to you and they are non-negotiable. I don't believe that you will be you could be a capable trainer, but you will not be a truly inspiring trainer.
I want to double click a little bit on that. Was there a point in time for you, True, that you saw this shift in your own training and facilitation skills, where you moved from being a competent trainer, but to then move into somebody who really embodied Training Zen, that you could see that distinction? Can you tell us a story about how that transition happened for you?
Yeah, thanks, JD. In the book, I identify three stages in a trainer's career. And it doesn't matter if you're internal or you're even a manager or an individual contributor delivering training within an organization, or you're external like you and I. The first phase is really deciding whether or not you're good at this. So phase one is, am I any good? And what you're doing is you're standing in front of a room full of very intelligent, experienced individuals, and it's a fair question. Am I able to create an experience for them that they find valuable? So I think that naturally the focus for the first phase of career will be on that, on demonstrating that you can do that very well. And managing, another way to put it is answering definitively the imposter syndrome voice in your head that is saying, are you sure you're qualified? So I went through that, and I find that everyone I've mentored has gone through that. Even folks I've worked with as an executive coach who are in a new role, or maybe they're a founder in a startup. Those are natural questions that we go through. And then the next phase is, okay, well, I've demonstrated that I'm good enough. I'm capable. I can do well. Now what? And when you're at that phase, then it's very important, I think, to go back to the reasons why you're doing it. Your purpose, your guiding values, your practices that you bring to the work. And that's probably the phase where I figured, I'll share something that's probably not too risky, but might get me into a little bit of trouble. Back in my early phase of career, I was delivering the materials that other people had designed. I was a freelance trainer, something I know you also may have some experience with. And so you receive the materials often, 2 or 3 days before the program, and you might be delivering in another language. For me, a lot of my career has taken place in the Chinese diaspora. Speaking Chinese in Taiwan or in mainland China, and things are not localized. And then you start to think, well, for the folks who are in the room, are these, is this content working for them? And there are very often the answer is no. You know from experience that it's overstuffed, it's over-designed, it's somebody sitting in a headquarters office who has good intentions, but maybe lacks a little bit of experience or is too far removed from what's actually happening in the training room. And that's where you have to then decide, what are my guiding principles in this situation? Do I deliver as I've been told, or do I actually make it work for the folks in the room? And that's when I think I started thinking about these things.
I love those distinctions, and I love that journey that you narrated, that you went on, and that people who commit their career to this, be it internal or external, would go on as well. I want to get to some of the practices in the book, but as I do that, I just want to describe for the readers who are considering buying the book, this is not just a toolkit, it's like a treasure chest of both tips and practices, as well as the section I loved the most was the section about when things go wrong, what to do, when the audience is not engaging or when the content is not delivering at the right mark. And I've been in this field actually since I trained you in the early 90s, mid 90s. And I was picking up great pieces of wisdom, great tactics that I could put into play. And so really is a treasure chest for those who are in the field or who are thinking of moving into the field as a second or third act in their own career. So as we look at all of the practices that go into being a dedicated trainer, I know you can't have favorite children, but do you have a favorite practice or two that's in the book, True, that you would like to emphasize? And as you're thinking about that, I'll also just let the audience know, I will be taking questions from the audience in just a few minutes here. So if you've got questions, drop those in the chat and we'll be able to handle one or two of those. But True, what are your favorite practices in the book?
I look forward to the questions too, JD. The first one is to avoid almost to completion, almost to 100%, the idea that you are the expert there to deliver content. And this is echoing a little bit of what I said earlier, but the sage on the stage, there's a place for that in corporate and organizational learning. It's called a keynote talk. In many cases, it's a learning session where you're expected to deliver more content and thought leadership and so forth. But in a training workshop, you are not there to teach. I don't care how expert you are. You could be the world's greatest negotiation skills trainer and consultant, and you should avoid at all costs the temptation to give them your advice about exactly how that works. Because I want to make this point very clear. You are an expert on negotiation theory and process and tactics and so forth, but you are not an expert on their lives and what they deal with.
Got it.
And so what you're doing actually is, you're prepared and you've got all kinds of things in your toolbox that could help, but you don't assume that you understand what they need. You find out what they need. And then before you try to say, oh, I know what you need, let me tell you what to do, you ask them, what would you do in this situation? So it's a related practice. You could call it practice number 2. Whenever you possibly can, you remember that you're dealing with adults. And you remember our friend Andrew Gagi, it's adult learning. And these are folks with experience. And what you're looking to do is to help them think about their experience and what answers come to them. You're digging out the gold that's in the room. I sound a little preachy, but I don't care. This is something I believe deeply.
I get that. And it does not, maybe you're preaching to the choir, because I am so aligned with your approach in corporate training and facilitation. But your passion is so evident, and that comes through in your writing, and certainly comes through in this conversation. The last question I want to ask, and then I'll take questions from the audience. If you've got them, start dropping them in the chat. You spend time in chapter 2. What do I call myself? Am I a teacher? Am I a trainer? Am I a facilitator? Talk about those distinctions of the title that we give to people who do this sort of work.
I remember writing that chapter. So I said that some of us are in a teacher role, some of us are in a trainer role, and some of us are in a facilitator role. And of course, there are a lot of other roles we can talk about, but those are the 3 that I highlighted. All of them have a purpose. All of them are valuable. It's just when you, depending on what situation you're in, you have to get clear about what role you should be playing. So I think that a mistake that a lot of folks make is to think of themselves as a teacher, and again, echoing what we said earlier, when actually you're there to be more of a facilitator. And I will say also that being there as a subject matter expert, training people on various subjects also has its place. For example, when we're training hard skills, if people in the room need to learn what they need to learn a project management, they need to know what a Gantt chart is. Well, you have to find a way to clearly explain what a Gantt chart is. But you would also, in that role, want to let them get their hands into the Gantt chart and see where it might be valuable for them, and see, what their personal version of the Gantt chart might look like. What apps they might use that would be valuable to them, that kind of thing. So it's overlapping now with pure facilitation.
Great. At this point, we are going to move to some of the questions that have come in so far. We may not get to all of them, but let's go to the first question. Can you share some challenges, successes, and tips on how to demonstrate impact post-training, after training is over?
Well, the challenge is that most organizations find it burdensome to get really to get feedback on performance improvements. Those in the field, we know about the Kirkpatrick levels of measurement. So there's very quickly, you measure participant satisfaction. You might go into a difference in the knowledge pre and post session. You might go to a third level where we see differences in behavior, and then the fourth level is, for example, if you're it's actual business impact. So we're training a sales force, and we compare sales numbers 6 months ago, and then after the training, what's happened later. You can do all of that. Those are good practices, and I would always advocate them. But my experience is that a lot of organizations, what they want is they want a training event or a learning journey where the participants come out saying, "I'm different. I've changed. Mm-hmm. I feel like that was a really valuable use of my time, and I can articulate that to you, the sponsor of the program." And for a lot of organizations, if they can get that, the other stuff is kind of, everybody's overworked. Okay, especially in HR. My poor friends in HR are just universally overworked. Or if they're in an administrative role, so that's a nice to have, but often doesn't actually happen. What I try to do with my own proposals and designs is I try to have follow-up events that are very high value. And one of my favorite things to do, just to address what Zachary's asking, so we have a training, and we hope that people come out of that training feeling enlightened and inspired, and they've been able to personalize things that they've learned. And we need to do something after that. And one of my favorite things to do is to get together and to facilitate a group coaching session where people are bringing up, it's 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, They're bringing up things that have been on their mind since that training, what they've tried, what has worked well, what they're still confused about, or what they're still struggling with. And we bring that to this group, a peer-driven problem-solving session, which is a group coaching
Nice.
session, or I call it a think tank as well. You have a follow-up think tank.
Nice. I like that. Clicking down a little bit more on that, Alex asked the question, if you could share a little bit more about Kolb's learning cycle, practical andragogy in action, and being able to describe that for other people on the call who are not familiar with that cycle.
Okay, thanks, Alex. So what we're trying to do within the training experience itself is we're trying to create these engaging, we're preparing and running engaging learning experiences that provide an experience. So that can be a simulation, it can be a role play, it can be, there's a number of different designs that you can use. And when that's over, we're going to then want to get into the David Kolb, it's Kolb as he's written, experiential learning cycle in the debrief. So we're going to want to guide people through that. So it's 4 phases. Phase 1 is an experience. We've just had an experience. We calm down a little bit, breathe a little, get a coffee or whatever, we relax, and then we get into a reflection phase. That's phase 2, reflect. What happened? I was running through this simulation and I was thinking that what I saw was obvious, and actually it wasn't obvious. That's one of my favorite things to do. Challenge the mental models. Oh, we know how to solve this, and actually it's tricky. So we get into a reflection phase, and we're thinking about what happened. Then we get into what Kolb calls an assimilation phase, or conceptualization phase. And it's really just saying, so what does that mean for me? Okay, if I'm quick to decide that I know what to do, and in fact, I don't know what to do, what does that mean for me? You know, what happened there that caused that for me? And then the third phase, before you go back to another experience, is you say, okay, what am I going to do about that? That's the action phase, or Kolb calls it practice and experimentation phase.
Excellent. I want to keep going here. We're going to go with one more quick question that is going to be posted for us here. Question about learning versus performance. If you had to choose one, which would be your preference and why? True?
Jamie always asks the tough question. I want to know what you mean by performance, Jamie. Is it improvement of performance or learning? I'm going to assume that that's what you mean. So we're looking for people who are performing at a higher level, or you're purely learning, and feel free to clarify in the next comment, Jamie. For me, they are inextricably connected. So there is no performance improvement without learning. Performance improvement is driven by learning, and in fact, it makes performance improvement exciting. So the boss says, I want you to do better at this. And that there's some pressure, there's some external pressure there. And, I've got to figure that out. But if you can create this engaging, useful learning experience that helps them find the answer for themselves, that makes that performance pressure go away. It becomes fun. It becomes interesting. That's how I would answer that. And I don't know if I got it right or not, but Jamie will tell me after the session.
Excellent. Well, I want to again, in a moment here, those who said they're in, we will announce who's getting the books. But I just want to again highlight the book that was just published this month, Training Zen by Truett Black, published by Routledge, How to Build a Sustainable and Rewarding Career in Corporate Training and Facilitation. It is a treasure trove of strategies, tactics, and approaches to be successful at whichever of the 3 phases in your career that you're in. So we're going to give a copy of Training Zen away, and that will go to, drumroll please, Julie Cruz in Canada, and a copy of my book, Communicate with Mastery, will go out to Leela O'Brien. If the 2 of you, we will connect on LinkedIn, where everybody registered for this event. to get your mailing address so that we can get those books off to each of you individually. For everybody else, we encourage you to go wherever you purchase your books. I like the independent bookstores. I also like the way that buying through Amazon increases the visibility of authors. But wherever you buy your books, pick up a copy of Truett's book, Training Zen. And this concludes our 3-part summer series of authors. And True, this was a great way to end my 3-part series here. Thanks for being with us from Taipei in the middle of the night.
Thank you, JD, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Excellent. Take good care.